Hey everybody, I'm back with another book. This one is The Boy in the Back of the Class. And I feel like I say this a lot. Like a lot of books seem to remind me of the book Refugee by Alan Gratz. And this one does for very obvious reasons. So if you did read Alan Gratz's book Refugee, you know one of the threads of that novel is a family who is trying to escape Syria because there's a war going on there and they face certain death if they don't get out. And so that is the story behind one of the main characters in The Boy in the Back in the Class. So this boy just shows up in their class one day, and the kids are kind of told to give him some space at first because he's been through some trauma. He's been through a lot of trauma on his journey from Syria to London. Um, and in fact, I forgot to mention that the story does take place in London. So you'll hear some things in the story like the tube. The tube is like their subway system there. Um, and in the story, some of the characters go to try to plead to the queen to help this little boy. So there's a lot of kindness that's shown in the book, which is really nice. There are some bullies in the book, and there's a bully at the school, and then there are even kind of adult bullies too. So people who don't treat people from Syria, the refugees, with any kindness. So we see a little bit of an opposition at play in there. Um, it does get really it has this really heartwarming ending in a lot of ways, just to see how people rally together to help this little boy. Um, And one thing that struck out to me is perspective with this story. It was published recently, even though Syria was big in the news several years ago. So it makes me think about like several years from now. I expect we're going to see a lot of stories told about this global pandemic that we're in. Um, and there's going to be so many different perspectives of that. You're living your own perspective right now, and your perspective is going to be different maybe than a classmate's perspective, just as your perspective is different from my perspective through it. And people from North Carolina might have a different perspective than people from, say, Texas or Florida. So it's kind of neat to think about how we can all experience the same situation from very different points of view and different perspectives. But it's a really good read. My son is now reading this copy of it, but it's available on Sora and from two different sources as of right now. I'm also currently reading, and I'll talk to you more about it in my next video, a book called Blended by Sharon Draper. Really good. And then I'm listening to on Sora another book. Um, Now I have to look it up because I can't remember. Let me pull up the app. It's called Not If I Can Help It. And it's also available probably to read, but I decided while I'm doing other things in the house and doing other things or taking a walk or helping my son with his schoolwork or I can just plug in the headphones and listen to a story with multitask. So hope that you will use the opportunity to also explore some of the audiobooks that are available on Sora. As I've said to you in class and in person, I don't recommend audiobooks necessarily for graphic novels or books that are kind of dependent on illustrations, because if you can't see those illustrations, then it's a very different experience. But for a book like the one that I'm reading, where it's told in text, it's perfectly great way to hear a new story. All right, so I hopefully will have you tuning in to hear about Blended in my next video. Bye.